What up, what up? This is your guy, Xavier McGilberry. Welcome to the Urban Professional Podcast. Today I have a dope guest, a friend, a connector, a sales exec, a blogger to the Love Kings. This guy, he's so diverse, he does it all. Welcome, Lyman King, to the show. Lyman, thank you for coming, man. Thank you for sitting down and having a conversation with me.
Really. I know that introduction was really for all the...
I do a good job?
Yeah, you did an amazing job. But this family, man, I mean, it's no different than, whoo. Hey, man, this is amazing. It's dope that you've done this. I know there's going to be some things that I'm not going to touch. You can carry on, but I think this is really dope, man. I mean, you're a very, very, very deep thought brother, and thank you so much for having me, man.
Thank you for coming, brother.
To be the first, woo-hoo, that's dope, man.
That's dope. I wanted you to be the first because we typically have conversations about different things, and man, I wanted to go deep. I think that our conversations can help people in life.
You know, man, our conversations have certainly helped me.
Absolutely.
So I think our conversations have certainly helped us. Just providing that safe space for brothers to be able to talk and be vulnerable and express themselves without judgment. And that's one thing that I can say that you've always provided for me. And just giving us a place to be able to talk, man, and just release and relate and just be ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you said be ourselves. We often talk, and I think sometimes we have to put these masks on. We often talk about this, man. You brought up something that's really, really like unique. As men, we often have a lot of responsibility, right? And sometimes it seems like we don't have a finish line what is a complete man in a sense, you know what I mean? So let me ask you a question though, before you jump into, I'm sorry. This is, as a man, we have the responsibility of being a man, growing as a man, and then you add the husband layer to that. When you add that, how do you balance progressing as a man, being a husband, and keeping mental health?
One thing that I realized, Zay, man, is the struggle is guaranteed. The success, not so much. You know, oftentimes people judge us based on the chapter of our lives that they meet us in, right? There's so many chapters that actually came before that helped develop the person that we are. And unfortunately, a lot of times we try to live in that moment opposed to being who we truly are. Man, I mean, because you mentioned so many different things. I mean, becoming a man. At first, there was a boy, right? You and I have similar backgrounds. Growing up in Mississippi, coming from a one red light town with single parents, right? And our perspective of what life was or what being a man was so taboo back then. I mean, we didn't really have a whole lot of examples at all. At all. Reverend Keys, which was a distance, you know what I'm saying? But we didn't really have anybody to look up to. So the people that we are, and I think unfortunately, man, and it's unfairly, we put so much pressure on ourselves based on what this stigma that society says is success. You know what I'm saying? You know, I was riding over here today, and I didn't know what the flow was going to be like. You and I purposely didn't divulge what the questions would be, but I did a lot of thinking, and it took me back to when we were kids and we were roommates in college, and how we leaned and depended on each other so much for not only our next meal, but for our next outfit or our next test, or am I going to help, if you're going to help me in this class, or am I going to help you in this class, or am I going to help you socially? It's just so many different things that fortunately you and I were able to experience growing up that a lot of people don't have that opportunity. We have, quote unquote, had some success. You know, I was driving over here, and I was actually having a conversation with my son before I got here. Man, we come from nothing. Yeah. And I was driving over here, and I thought, you know, I bought my first Rolex 27 years ago. I know that's such a shallow ass statement to make, but in this world that we live in today, social media, right? And just this whole world that we live in today, everything, people are defined by things that don't really matter. And it's like, it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because we got to live and grow up as kids. And, you know, I can remember taking you to the heaven. Well, no, Crystal took you.
Hey, question for you. You hit a point about Rolex, and it seemed like you had this like resentment that you purchased, and that's sort of like that as a man. I guess that mental balance. Why is it that we feel this guilt if we do something for ourselves?
Right. You know, I just want to go back though, because when you say the word Rolex, you know that has a successful stigma
or just
to it.
buy something for
Right.
yourself, rather.
But
it
you
don't
know,
have to be the Rolex.
I also want to talk about all the failures that I've had before I even got to that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, I can't tell you how many schools. First went to University of West Alabama. Coming out of high school, messed around and got kicked out of that school, which led me to Valdosta State. You know, having a kid early in life out of wedlock and just trying to figure things out. That's how I ended up at Albany State.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I remember one day Crystal came to me and was like, "Hey, I'm pregnant." I'm like, "Really?" So I remember having a conversation with you, and her next statement was, "I'm going home. What you gonna do?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess I'm going home with you." And didn't even know where that was. But just to be able to make that type of decision to go and, you know, at that point, you know, start to formulate your life. But to go back to the Rolex statement, you know, I have been blessed. God has, you know, blessed me to have some sense of success. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, people will put that, I guess it's a gift and a curse. I mean, people look at you from the outside and they say, okay, he's doing well. So what that means is everybody needs something. So, but the Rolex was a thing. I mean, for me, time was very important to me back then. And it was, the Rolex was cool, but the concept of time was more important to me. And I thought that was one of the most ideal ways to show how important time was. And I know that's really shallow and goofy to say, man, but to me, I just wanted to, every time I looked at my arm, I wanted to be able to say how much time meant to me.
The Rolex is really good. Let me ask you a question. How are you mentally, though?
Cool. Man, that's a day-to-day question. I mean, it depends on what day you ask me that. It's mentally, I don't. That's actually a dope question. We tried. I tried to, depending on who I'm talking to or what situation I'm in, it depends on what face I'm putting on, and it does get tiresome, man. I mean, because I guess unfortunately you get to a certain point in life where you feel like you have to be something, or something for someone.
Right.
And you know, you and I talked about this. I remember I just had this epiphany one day. I was like, you know, I need some better friends, some smarter friends, better looking friends, something, because I felt like I had to be everything for everybody. All I did was talk.
I agree. You know, you have to have a charge. I think that we often talk about that. It's draining when we just have to be the person that's always giving the information. Sometimes, you know, we have to be charged. It was a unique saying that I heard, and I can't remember why I heard it at, man. It was so funny. It said, nobody knows when a lion cries because it roars when it hunts and it roars when it cries. So, but the unique thing is, you know, we have a good support system, the fellas. We hold each other accountable, but at the same time, we're a safety valve for one another.
You know what? And that, you know, it's crazy you said that. And I ask myself all the time, am I being the friend that I need to be?
No. But go ahead, no, I'm joking.
No, that's really true, man, because the dynamics of people's lives change so much, and life is so fluid. You don't know how to be who you need to be a lot of times, because oftentimes people don't let you in, right? We're just fortunate enough to know that, and I tell you things all the time. I tell you how, hey, that's dope. I'm proud of you, man. You're doing your thing. I really love what you're doing. I love to see you doing well. I don't think in our community we get that enough,
Mhm.
where people tell you that they're just flat proud of you, and they can say that with conviction and actually mean it and support people and put them in positions to where that's a safe space to go. You know what? Because every day ain't gonna be damn perfect.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's insane. To be able to have that space where you can go to when you're not having that good day. When you just asked me a minute, I want to go back to that whole like where am I mentally?
Right.
Um,
Curious.
very curious, man. I try to figure it. How do you deal with those tough days or those meetings that didn't go well or those anticipated things that you put in your mind that's going to happen that don't go that way? How do you respond to those things? How do you mentally get through those things and still coexist professionally and also in your marriage?
I think for me, that's what I was asking you about, like the balance part of it. As we always talk, like I think the balance, like that's what I'm looking for, like that balance. For me personally, a lot of it is you. I don't know if you know it or not. Like a lot of times, we on the way home, we always call each other, right? So it's like this debriefing, and it's like we can pull that mask off from that corporate thing, and I can be, you know, who I am. I can be the kid from Ellisfield. I can tell you how I feel. So that helps me. That's my balance. For me, it's like you allow me to say some things that I couldn't say in the office, and that helps me with that balance. So I think that for me, it's finding balance to be able to be professional and then allow me to be unprofessional at times. You know, when we get together, man, all of us, you know, it ain't no punches. It don't matter who you are on a professional
Ain't nobody.
level. It's welcome home, Roscoe Jenkins.
Oh yeah, ain't no titles, ain't none of that.
You finna be.
You gonna get it.
You gonna be Tater Head.
Flat gonna get it now, Fessy. I'm talking about, and we are, and it's sometimes get uncomfortable because everybody don't have the thick skin that that some of us
go
get.
for sometimes though. You put
man.
salt in the wound sometimes.
I do, man.
You go too hard at times.
But you know, it's really crazy you said that, man. It's sometimes I call you and be like, hey man, what's up? I ain't want nothing. How you doing? All right, man, you got anything? I'm out. But
You do.
and I hang the phone up. And I try to be intentional on doing that because, you know, life presents us with so many different challenges, and you sometimes need to just unplug sometimes, and sometimes you just need to be okay.
I agree. So let me ask you something. So with all of that being said, and now we're in this husband state to where we have a significant other. So let's flip it. How do you feel about the significant other, your spouse, the female place, in the house? Like, are you okay with, I guess the new thing is the 50-50. Are you okay with the 50-50? And what does that 50-50 looks like for you?
Now, y'all always wear my ass out about this. I don't, my 50, we don't have 50-50, man. And you know what? I just figured out what worked for me. And we've been together since 97.
Okay.
I tell her all the time, I raised you, your daddy didn't do nothing with that. That was me. You know what I'm saying? Since 97. And we've had so many ups and downs and so many good days and bad days. 100 it's so tough to get to 100. You know what I'm saying? 50-50 is I'm just trying to get to 100. You know what I'm saying? By any means necessary on days. I mean, she's a professional just like I am, and you know, you change so much, man. You grow so much, and it's 50-50 is tough. But sometimes for me is 90-10, and for me, sometimes it's 10-90. And sometimes it's 70-30. So I try not to keep the numbers, man.
That's one thing you did tell me. One thing that always stuck with me, you always say, man, quit keeping score.
Yeah.
That always stuck with me.
Because if you keep score, that becomes a game. And if there's a score, there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser.
Great point. I mean, yeah.
And you know, you and I go back.
I can't argue with that.
No. And you and I have had some really like flat ass arguments about keeping house, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, in life experiences, give you those different options and different ways to look at things. You mentioned 50-50. How does that look though? Like, what do you mean by that?
I'm just using like
Like, okay, like Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. Just came out in the news that they split everything down the middle 50-50.
Okay.
Do you think that's sustainable? Is that realistic?
I think it's realistic, but the reason that's different. That's sort of like why we have this show. The reason that's different is you talking millions, right? Mm-hmm. So they probably can sustain it. Let's talk me and you. Let's talk the urban professional. Let's talk thousands.
Right.
That's different from millions where I'm not going to run out.
Right.
That's different.
And that's what I also meant.
Thousands. So when you say that, I think it's a different play for that.
And that's the thing that I told my son this Saturday. I told him, getting something is easy. Sustaining it, that's a whole nother story.
Agree.
It's easy to get something, but to maintain it and sustain it, whether that's a relationship, a job, or a house, a car, whatever is you feel like is important to you. But you said no. Okay, then explain what.
Because I think you're putting it into monetary. Like when you talk those levels, that's a big gap. So for me, I think that what comes into effect is, for us, when we say 50-50, it can be emotional. It could be, it's just understanding what we're carrying. And that transition into like, okay, are the black men being celebrated? I think that plays a factor into that 50-50 component. Like,
I knew you were going to do it.
We have these conversations at every dinner.
Man. I know we do, man. But you, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But are we celebrated? Like, are black men celebrated? Like, because believe it or not. Believe it or not, what we always talk about.
Here go with them damn numbers again.
Man,
go ahead.
Believe it or not, man, we men try to act like they aren't emotional, but they want to be celebrated.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they want a cheerleader.
Yeah.
You know
absolutely.
what I mean? And at times it's like I was listening to a sermon from T.D. Jakes.
Okay.
And he said if no matter, like if a woman has been taking the role of both sides, like you got a single woman, she goes into this, say, let's give an example. She has a flat.
Okay.
Right? So now she goes into this cry mode on a flat. She says, I have a flat tire, and on a flat tire, I'm crying as a woman, I'm emotional.
Right.
Okay? But then she has a snap right out of that, and then she becomes
I gotta fix this.
Yeah. Now I'm the man, as far as like he's supposed to I gotta fix it or it's not gonna get fixed. So when you've done that for so long, right?
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
If you've done that for so long and now you implement a man into this situation, you're gonna take control because it became natural for you, right? Mm-hmm. So now you're gonna do both. You're gonna cry a little bit, but then you're gonna say, let me fix it, even though you got a man. And as a man, you feeling like you taking some of my authority, you taking what I do, because DNA-wise we built different.
It's funny you said that, man. Society has done that. Success has done that. And we are just actually living in something that our parents actually gave birth to. And women now can feel like they can coexist by themselves, where before our parents needed each other.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of give and take where today people feel like they don't really need each other, right?
Right.
Well, especially women. You were talking about women and our place in their lives.
Right.
So, I totally understand what you're saying. I know you was gonna slide off into that bullshit. I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
But man, I mean that's a fact. I think the part of it is we're scared to talk about it. Right? Because we don't want that argument to come up. We don't want to face the elephant in the room. We don't want to sleep on the couch tonight.
The elephant in the room.
But you'll leave us out there now. You ain't gonna sleep on the couch. Everybody might be sleeping on the couch. You ain't. You'll jump on their side.
See, God, no, it's not jumping on nobody's side.
Okay,
it's just
okay.
I just value my sleep.
Okay. Well, with that, with valuing the sleep, let's pivot to something else.
Okay, fair enough.
When you drop the load on all of those responsibilities and you're out of those feelings, for me, as I said, conversations with you guys, that get me to our men time, right?
Okay.
And for me, I think men time is important, and I want your opinion on this. And it's so funny because when we do the men time, like women, I think have no idea. We've talked about this before. Like they be like, it's no way y'all was together 3 hours, you know.
And then no bullshit happened.
What? I mean, how y'all together 3 hours?
Right.
That's not possible. And I think what happens is when that men time allows us vulnerability, right? Because we can talk about. For me, it's like this energy because when I've went through something, and you hit me with or Lyman hits me with man, that's happened to me last week, and you can relate. That's like, okay, I can get out. I could fight again. This ain't just happened to me. So I want to know, how do you feel about men time? Like for me, it's rejuvenating. You guys are like lifesavers for me. Me and you conversate a little more than some of the other bros. But like, what is that men time is for you, and how do you feel about it? Do you think it's a necessity?
It's absolute necessity. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna bring it back. You remember that time I probably 6, 7 months, well, probably about a year ago. My dumb ass.
That could be anything.
Yeah, playing. Y'all always call me to tease or do this and do that. Knowing I ain't gonna really bust a grape, but I did some really stupid shit that really on surface looked like it was a big thing. Yeah. And I totally understand, because if she was on the other foot, I totally would have probably felt like she did. But I really fucked up, right? And you were the first person I came to. Yeah. And when you talk about having that outlet or someone to actually go to and talk to, it was absolutely imperative for me. You talk about mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual, everything. You were there for me during that time a lot more than you think you were. And I know you, because we've been knowing each other for so long, and you know me just as well as I know myself. A lot of stuff you told me I didn't really, accept at the time, but it was really needed. And throughout it all, you also taught me not to forget who I was. Mm-hmm. And I was so willing to give up everything that I knew to try to save what I had. I had begun to step back and forget who I was. And that conversation that you and I had, I never, ever forget that. And it helped me get through that. And then not only personally, but that helped me professionally and socially and all those other things. I don't want to talk about no more. Getting in trouble shit. Go ahead.
Getting in trouble is part of it, bro.
It is, but everybody wants to act like they perfect. Everybody wants to pretend
you said a mouthful then.
That they damn perfect. That goes from a professional standpoint, from a social standpoint, from a relationship standpoint. You and I have had times, you and I are closer, as you stated, than all of our circle. Mm-hmm. Because we grew together, went to college together, we struggled together, we got kicked out of about 3-4 cribs together.
Yeah, we was on the street.
Yeah, and so our dynamic is really, really different.
I always tell people we grew up twice together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you say that, it's so funny when you talk about, I was just talking to Nard, and I told him, I said, Lyman is one of the only people, he'll call me. He said, man, I ain't want nothing. I just want to tell you I love you. And even though, you have to understand, you hit a point earlier, like we grew up in this dynamic that, we didn't hear that a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's funny, it's like, man, it's I don't know how I'm supposed to feel, man. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I always say, man, whatever, what you want, your brother hang up on you. You know what I mean? So, but it's okay. I think that's still like that thing that we think of. I know with me personally, like when you said that, I know I got somebody. You know what I mean? I know if I need somebody, he's there. You know what I mean? So even though I'm learning how to respond to that and how to do that, I'm learning, but I guess what I'm saying, don't stop, man. I really appreciate that because I know it's, sometimes I think men feel like they're on an island until, you know, we have to know we have support. And I think the growth of the new man is that support is different. We used to feel like it had to be just physical, but now it's physical, it's mental, you know, it's spiritual. We're not afraid to talk about God anymore.
Right. You know,
what I'm
someone, I
saying?
asked somebody
So,
the other day, I said, would you rather me see you naked or read your mind?
that's an interesting question.
Would you rather me see you butt naked or read your mind? And it was so funny that most
What was the
people was
answer?
like, I'd rather you see me naked. And I'm like, wow, ain't no way in hell. Because once you think about just the question, right? That goes back to all these people. Now we live in this social media age. I mean,
Yes.
social media has provided this platform for you, right?
Yes.
To be able to talk about things that we can relate to, and hopefully someone else can relate to. But everybody has. What happens when you're not perfect? What happens when people find out that you're not perfect, right?
When you talk of perfect, I always tell, me and my wife have this conversation. I always tell her this. I say, nobody's perfect, right? I said, but because nobody's perfect, what do they do in a classroom when nobody makes 100? Because nobody's 100%. What do they do in the classroom? If nobody makes 100 on the test, you get a curve,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I said, baby, put me on the curve now. My
And
80 might be 100. Put me on the curve.
Right. And
My
you know the
80
crazy
might be
part is,
100.
let me tell you something else too. What I realized about the situation that I'm in, for so long, it was unfortunate that I was not equipped
I
to
agree,
be
totally.
what my wife needed me to be.
I totally agree.
I was not equipped to do that. I wasn't a lot of times equipped to be the friend that I needed to be, the brother that I need to be, the professional I need to be. And you know what's crazy is, you talk about professional, the name of this podcast is Young Urban Professionals.
The urban professional.
The Urban Professional.
The is important.
The.
Yes.
That means the only one. We talk about relationships. We talk about marriage. We talk about friendships. Those are the only things that don't have any training. But we have the most scrutiny and you have the most pressure. Like if you were to bring someone on in your job, you would want to know what kind of experience they had.
Mm-hmm.
But if we leave here tonight and go to a bar, ain't no way in hell you're going to ask nobody about no experience. You're going to figure that out down the road.
But you're not looking for no results from them.
Yes, you are.
Oh, I am?
Because, well,
What I'm looking
just look
for.
at where we are now, right?
Yeah.
We
Bring it to me,
We
'cause I'm-
live based on results, and that's based on what someone's perception is, someone's perception is based on what you do. A lot of times, what we do, and this is really unfortunate, is that we base our perception of someone else on our intentions, and then base
That's valid.
we base.
That's
We
very-
want
that's
you
true.
to say, hey, look, I want you to base your perception of me on my intentions, but then I base my perception of you on your actions.
Ooh,
And that's really unfair.
That's good. That's
but it's
good.
true. It's like,
That's
you know,
good.
that is not what I meant.
That's a good one.
That's not.
I usually don't give you five. That's a good one.
That ain't what I meant.
I usually don't
But
give you
it's
five. That's a good one. That's a
but
good one.
It's like,
That's
and
a
it's
good
like,
one.
well, but then I base my perception of you on your actions, but I want you to base your perception of me on my intentions, and we take that through all aspects of life, whether it's our professional life or our home life or whatever it is. That's what it is.
So what you have in two different spectrums of like that what you gave me, I understand it. Our wives wouldn't understand that,
No.
right? Because I feel like the roles are different. Me, this is just my belief, you know what I'm saying? I believe like God created us where one is weak, the other, you know, fills in the gap,
Right.
So with that in mind, it's certain things that they don't understand. And it's so funny. And I guess, how do we get that message across? Because, I mean, you've talked about this like a couple of days ago, like the natural woman, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they hear us, but they're not listening, right? So you're real big on, we talk about natural beauty, right? Mm-hmm. Oh man, we say, man, she's naturally pretty. That's your word.
I'm not
You know what I
touching.
mean?
Don't, do
So
not
so
put,
no,
don't
hold on,
pour
hold on.
that shit on.
So no, I'm not going into the beauty part. I really
Okay.
want to go into the listening aspect of it. Like if we say, you know, me and your wife constantly go at dinner on this. If we say, you know, I don't really like the eyelashes, the big ones. Them ain't really what it is.
Right.
They'll look at us. They'll hear it. You don't know. Men love these. No, we don't really know what they are. You know what I mean? And I'm saying that to say not that portion of it, but how do we get them to understand? Because I think the communication is the bridge to it all, right? So how do we get that across that we able to communicate better? I know we got all the cliches saying like what is it? You waiting to respond or you listening to
You listen
respond.
to
All
respond, all
that,
that,
man, that's all fun and dandy. But when you get in the war zone and it's emotion involved, like, but we wholeheartedly want this relationship to work. And I tell people all the time, marriage is the hardest thing I ever done in my life. You know what I'm
Everybody talking
saying?
about getting married and
but
it's happy ever shit.
how do we get that across though? How do we get that communication component across to saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for, this is my vulnerability, this is
That
what
is
I'm
the
looking
word right there. That is, in my opinion, now my humble opinion, is the most. That is the answer to 99% of the world's problems. Vulnerability.
Well,
Someone
vulnerability and
exposing
man don't go
themselves.
together though. I'm
Huh?
talking about in history, vulnerability and man, those was like two.
Right. And that's unfortunately the definition of the world that we've grown up in, but that's not necessarily what actually exists now. You have to be vulnerable, especially in today's complex world that we live in, because we're professionals. You got this podcast. You're a dad. You have people at work in leadership that look up to you and expect you to have the answers. You have a wife that depends on you to be a provider. You have all these different things and all these different people coming at you at different angles, depending on you to be so many different things. You have to be vulnerable to somebody. If not, you will explode, man. Because it's like that's a safe space we've been able to create for each other, and to have a sustainable relationship, it's gonna take vulnerability, man. It's going to have to show that weakness. It's going to have to show that fact that you need something or need someone, and not always have to have all the answers.
So let me ask you this: you've given a lot of nuggets, right? And we always say here at the Urban Professional, we want people to leave here better than they came, or have a better understanding of when they view the show, when they come on and at the end to have taken something from the show. If you had to sum it up, and right now to our viewers, you could say, if you don't get nothing from this episode, what would you want them to get? The one thing you would want them to get from this, from Lyman King.
It's okay not to be perfect. It is absolutely 100% okay not to be perfect. And I'm a poster child for that. And hopefully I'll get the opportunity somewhere down the line to talk about that today, because people always want to be perfect. And that's the pressure of life, and that's what I think society has done. That's the pressure that society is based on us.
Yeah, that's true. So through it all, you think that it's important for us to be vulnerable, for one, and then to understand there's no such thing as perfection.
Let me ask you a question.
Absolutely.
If your lights got turned off tomorrow,
Mhm.
would you call me and tell me?
I think how comfortable I am with you. The first thing as a man, to be honest, I would try to figure it out. But if I couldn't, it would be you that I would reach out to. But the reason I say I'm comfortable with reaching out to you is because of our communications that we've had before.
And that's the problem, in my opinion, with life. People aren't comfortable in accepting those realities of life. And I just use the example of your lights being turned off. But I mean, those are just the realities of life. And learning to embrace those and not letting it just beat you down, and being able to move on and grow and continue going. Those are some of the nuggets I hope people take away from this.
Well, man, Lyman, I want to tell you, I am so thankful that you came in today. You dropped some nuggets. As always, the conversations are amazing. This is how it's going to go at the Urban Professional Podcast. We want people to be able to be real, to get experiences. And experiences, a lot of times people think that experiences mean you have to experience it. It's not necessarily true. You can learn from someone else's experience. This is how this show is going to be. This is how we're going to do it.
That's actually dope.
This is how we're going to make it happen. So we looking forward to the next episode of the Urban Professional Podcast. We're going to go into different dynamics. We're going to make you a better professional. We're going to make you understand that you don't have to be perfect, but you can excel and be excellent. And that's our goal here. So, man, thank you again for coming out,
I am
man.
absolutely 100% honored to be here. I'm extremely proud of you, young brother. I mean, I know this is something you've been always talking about doing, and to see it actually come to fruition and come full circle, and for me to be a part of the first show, I am absolutely honored, man. I wish you nothing but best of luck.
Thank you.
Good luck, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to grow and get a lot out of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.